Alright guys, Tactical here back again today. Hope you're enjoying your Thursday and looking forward to this Easter weekend. Today I want to talk about this upcoming weekend event in Dallas. Well, it's not actually in Dallas, it's an online event but hosted by the Dallas Empire. So far this season, Chicago versus Dallas has been one of the big rivalries. Scump versus Crimsix, so many other things to talk about in terms of storylines with these two matching up. But so far this season, Chicago have been the team that's got the better of the Dallas Empire every single time, the 3 times they has matched up. Is this going to turn around this weekend? Of course, we may not get this matchup at all due to the way the groups and that are seeded, and online probably has some more randomness than a LAN event would have. But given the whole circumstances that it is online, I do think the Dallas Empire pose a much bigger threat to Chicago Huntsmen this weekend as they have done in the past. They got pretty close on LAN, but no cigar. This weekend, I think they may get the better of them if they do get the chance to match up. And I imagine being Dallas's home series, obviously everyone has been talking about Dallas, a great team in theory online. Will that indeed happen? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoy the video, subscribe if you're new. As always, proper predictions video coming out tomorrow. Firstly, wanted to mention this to set up the episode. Dedicated servers have come to Call of Duty Modern Warfare as we have talked about. It does indeed seem, as we have kind of rumoured over the last few days or so, that these online matches will be played on dedicated servers. I imagine the same dedicated servers they're using to host the Game Battles beta situation right now. So James Crowder says here on the Hardpoints podcast that went on either yesterday or the day before that OpTic Gaming Los Angeles and Atlanta, of course, that Crowder is the coach of, pinged about 50, which honestly is really good given how far away the players were in this instance from the local server. And he has a few other words as well for players that like to play him online.
Advantages, disadvantages, but they are on dedicated servers.
Have we ever had that before?
Oh, they're daddies?
No,
Yeah,
we have
like,
not. Supposedly they were daddies built for this.
Wow.
Chris has
That's
said
awesome.
they've had some scrims on them.
We played a few on them. I'm assuming I'm allowed to talk about this. We played a few on them.
No idea.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. For
No
idea. But we played on them. We played, I think, LAG. LAOG or the OpTic. They're obviously from LA, and we're Atlanta. And we both pinged around 50. You know what I'm saying? I thought from our side of things, they looked incredible. You obviously don't want to get me started on the whole online Call of Duty thing because I'm a big believer that it's a huge cop-out. And I think it's a really lame mindset to use it. Unless you are pinging 150 plus and you are literally lagging where like you have an actual issue, 90% of the time, nothing changes that much except for your shitty ass mindset. So like, that's like a whole nother topic that I don't want to go into, but the dedicated servers, from what I saw so far, have been pretty good, and I think it's been.
Now, his statements weren't entirely echoed around the community. JCap then replies with pinged around 50, like, who? Like, you know, this isn't happening to me. Of course, JCap on that OpTic Gaming team, so he obviously would have been one of the players that JCap was, that Crowder was talking about pinging 50. Doesn't look like JCap believes that exactly to be the case. And then Slasher says, like, that's cap, so he obviously on the OpTic Gaming Los Angeles as well. No LA is pinging 50. I pinged 50 when we played on a San Francisco server the other day. That was lit. Besides that, I don't think I've seen under 80 or 90. I was getting 80 to 100 from West. So, okay, not everyone agreeing with what Crowder says right here, but still, in theory, it's a better situation than it would be if they were played on an individual hosting the game or whatever. Better to have a neutral host at the very least, but still not going to be ideal. And as these players are saying right here, from the West Coast, seems to be somewhat difficult to get good connection. As we'll talk about in the coming minutes, Formal right now is staying in Los Angeles, playing with the Chicago Huntsmen that are based, I believe, in Texas. So that's not ideal in terms of connection, especially given some of these LA players that are based in LA are saying that, look, this isn't looking great, or at least based in California at the very least, that they don't seem to having great ping at the current time. And this is a clip from TJ Halley, clip from that scrim, pretty sensational servers. Let's play this on screen. So let's move on to the main topic of discussion for today, Chicago versus Empire, if it happens this weekend. Wanted to start off with this clip the Huntsman put out from Formal that is, well, pretty much him frying in his new MP5 role that he's running on the team with RC's taken over the main assault rifle.
Force absolute.
I'm dirt ramp, guys. I'm dirt ramp. They're focusing me. They're gonna focus on me.
I stand on me now.
I hit ramp.
Come on.
Get on me. I'm dead. I know. One's dead on. One's dead on. 135 on me. 435. More behind me. 55.
Yeah, responding.
Got him. I need help. You know, boxes. Oh my god. One more MP5. One more MP5. Sorry, I need it right. I'm looking short. Short. Heady, kids. Dead. One more hill. I got two. It's me left probably.
Trying to watch cross.
Give me in the corner.
Left. He's in the corner. Left corner. Luca. Left corner. Luca. 1 second. I'm on a short left. Left. Dead. More short. Dead. More short. Kids. Dead. More left guys. Left guys.
Good
flip.
Got him.
Yeah, they're still spawning cave.
Yeah, I'm yellow with you.
Go
Cave again. Got him.
So pretty impressive stuff from Formal, of course, as we did talk about and we will talk about in coming minutes. He's playing pretty far away from the rest of his team. Will that affect the performances in an online environment? It may well have some significant impact, and that's definitely something that's worthy of discussion with a team that is as good, in theory at least, as the Dallas Empire should be. So let's have a discussion about this weekend. First of all, this is what the matchups look like. As I say, I will go into and dive more deeply into predictions, but Dallas Empire up here in Group A, Chicago Huntsmen are down here in Group B. Let's say they both get through these matches without losing a map or without losing a series. Losing a map is very unlikely, but let's say they get through in the traditional format we have seen so far this season for the LAN events, and let's say they just make it through the semis and they match up in the final. Either way, if one of these teams loses matches, they may match up in the semis or, either semi or potentially in the grand final still if they win all their matches. But, we're hoping that we see this matchup again this weekend. Next weekend or a couple of weekends time at the Chicago home series, Atlanta are there to play as well. And Atlanta Huntsmen is a matchup we've been looking for quite a while now. But Dallas Huntsmen can be an interesting one to look at given that Atlanta are kind of considered the final boss. Huntsmen pretty much considered the second best team so far this season. Dallas Empire slightly behind them in third. However, in an online environment, a lot of people would say, maybe myself included, that the Dallas Empire may well sneak that second spot in terms of overall seeding, but we will see a lot of things going on this weekend. So these are the matches that the Huntsmen have played so far this season, and we can see that they've played the Dallas Empire 3 times. And let's not forget, Empire have beaten every single team, every single match they have played the entire season, apart from the Atlanta FaZe. They've lost to FaZe, they've lost to the Huntsmen, but apart from that, they've won all of their series. And right here, Huntsmen show, why that is indeed the case. They beat Empire 3 times so far this season. We'll have a look at those matches in a little bit closer detail right here. But the most recent match they lost, of course, was at the Atlanta home series. They didn't play in the Los Angeles one. So this is going way back now to Cam Allen scoreboards back in the day. This is the first matchup they played here at Minnesota. 3-1 in favour of the Chicago Huntsmen, and we will see a common theme. Now, this is a pretty close series on the whole, a lot of the maps are pretty close. The Search and Destroy was dominated by the Dallas Empire, in fact, but the other maps went kind of comfortably to the Chicago Huntsmen, but, it was nowhere near an absolute domination, apart from the domination, of course. Now, what we will see is a kind of consistent theme here is Illy and Shotzi having relatively poor performances. These are the guys on the team that were expected to invigorate the squad. And I think that to some degree they have. Let's not forget they won an event most recently at the Los Angeles home series, the last event that was actually played on LAN. But, of course, it's very, very understandable that these guys are very new to playing on a LAN environment, especially in a series that's going to be as intense and as pressurized, really, as against the Chicago Huntsmen. If there's any series which is going to be difficult and is going to be taxing mentally and is going to be tough for someone who's barely played on LAN at all in Call of Duty, Shotzi, of course, has done it in Halo World Champion. Illy is obviously in a more difficult boat. Shotzi's done it before, but not really in Call of Duty, and not really on a stage as big as this with the crowd rooting against you, right, in the way that they do with the Huntsmen on the other team. So obviously that's a little bit unsettling, and I think it's understandable as we look through this series that Shotzi and Illy have had pretty poor performances here on the whole, at least in terms of pure statistics. Now, when we go into an online format, you would expect that to turn around for a number of reasons. I think that could be the difference here between the Dallas Empire losing these series and winning these series. So, of course, they lose 3-1 here. Then the next matchup they played was at London. They lose again 3-1 at this one. This time they actually win the domination but lose the Search and Destroy in a very, very close fashion. This was in the groups. They end up losing these. Illy and Shotzi 0.72, 0.79 in this series. So pretty similar statistics to what we saw in this first scoreboard with a 0.75 and a 0.79 again. And then the last series that these guys played was on the final day of the London home series. Chicago beat them 3-0, but this is one of the closest 3-0s we've seen. The hardpoint map 1 was super close in Azir Cave. Map 2 again around 11 where the Chicago Huntsmen clutched up. up, and then the domination was slightly more comfortable, but still on a knife's edge for a long period of time. And Ilya and Shotzi here, 0.8, 0.95. So as you can see, as they've gone on, they have improved. The KDs on average between those two guys on every single series they played against the Huntsmen has improved. Now we're 2 months on from them. They're more experienced as a team. They have some more practice as a squad together, but they don't have to play on LAN. And that honestly, it could be a pretty big deal because, of course, Ilya and Shotzi are fantastically talented players, but on a LAN environment, I still think there is some getting there to be done in terms of being super cool under pressure, like Crimsix and Clayster are and have been over the last several years, because they have so much experience. And most of the guys in the Huntsmen are in a pretty similar boat and have been around a fairly long time. Ilya and Shotzi, not necessarily in the same situation. So I would expect, and Ilya and Shotzi, of course, are known for being good on online players regardless, I would expect these guys to improve in an online environment compared to what they have shown on LAN. Pretty much because, in my opinion, if you're a good player online, you will eventually become a good player on LAN. This isn't necessarily the case for all players. I think Blastful is one that comes to mind that hasn't done so much on LAN, but is considered such a dominant force in the online arena, which is definitely a storyline to talk about in tomorrow's video for this upcoming weekend. However, I think that Ilya and Shotzi will certainly get there as great Call of Duty players. Obviously, they're great Call of Duty players. They've been doing it online, or Ilya especially, and Shotzi done it in Halo titles, and now in Call of Duty showing some good things as well. But on the main stage environment against the Chicago Huntsmen, that's a tough environment to find yourselves in. I think it's going to be much easier for these guys to be playing from the comfort of their own home. So that's why I think the Dallas Empire as a team will be better now in an online environment than they were when they played Chicago Huntsmen the last time back in February. Now, the Chicago Huntsmen as a team may not be as good as a team, at least relatively, as they were back then. Of course, this is at the London event, which they won. The next event, Atlanta, didn't go quite so well. And we've seen a couple of clips come out, maybe some chemistry issues starting to, rear their ugly heads, I suppose. That is something that happens more, of course, when you stream a lot. More clips come to the surface of, formal and, well, not really formal, but gunless having a go at Envoy. And these kind of things that I haven't really talked about, but I've kind of saved in reserve if the day comes where we have to talk about a situation like that. But, it's possible that chemistry has been taking its toll a little bit. It's kind of something you might expect with a gunless team over the months. And I can imagine that these guys might get frustrated if things don't go their way online, because there's easy excuses when you're online, just like Crowder was talking about at the start of the video. That may well not happen though. The main thing to discuss is this role change which has gone on recently. RCT's onto the main assault rifle, Formal now on the SMG. And really the crucial thing here is it's an online setting. It's not on LAN. The teammates aren't all next to each other. Formal is going to be playing from quite a distance away. I believe the Dallas Empire are based in Texas, as are the rest of the Chicago guys. That shouldn't be much of a difference, but Formal is still based back in California, as you can see right here. What can we expect out of Formal this weekend if he's playing from his home in Los Angeles? I've seen rumors that he's not going to fly to Texas because he doesn't want to get stuck in Texas given the current situation, which is certainly fair enough. The neutral host provided by CDL may help somewhat, but he's still very far away from the rest of his team and will have a much different connection to the host. Doesn't really matter anymore with the role switch to RCTs. All he has to do is play the objective and try and go even. The caliber of player he is, he should be able to do that even on a bad host, which maybe is fair enough. So I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts down below. Of course, look, if you're on a situation where you're playing online at a pretty high ping, that's never going to be a positive scenario, right? That's never a good thing. But on the other side, it may not be a big deal given the role he's currently playing. It might be part of the reason why they've chosen to put RCs on the main assault rifle here. Given he's going to, in theory, have a better connection, he can get more mileage out of that assault rifle than Formal could, and all he really has to do now, Formal, is fill gaps. Is he the best player to be doing that? Is that the ideal setup for a team like the Chicago Huntsmen? Probably not, but if it gets the job done, maybe it's well worth it. So in my opinion, this series could be really, really close this weekend on LAN. So far, we've seen the Huntsmen pretty much wipe the floor with the Empire, even though a lot of the series have been close. At the end of the day, I think the map count is, 9-2 or something like that, so pretty comfortable. But we're a couple of months on now, things have changed in terms of the team dynamics, and I do think that Ilya and Shotzi and who can, to some degree, is going to have a better time playing from the comfort of their own homes than they do on a LAN environment, getting stared down by the crowd in such a large numbers. Yes, it's still an official match, it's still going to be difficult, but I think that is going to be to their benefit. So I think this match could be super close this weekend. I'm struggling to call it. I'd be intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed, subscribe if you're new as always. Thanks for watching. I will see you next time.